Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Jets, and Mets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. Jets score 13 or less points for the seventh time this season. They lose to the Atlanta Falcons 13-8. Talk to me, big guy. How are we feeling after last weekend's game?
It was a disaster. I mean, there's no better way to put it. It was an absolute disaster. I didn't have a lot of confidence in Tim Boyle after the game the week before. I told you I thought he would turn the ball over. I just didn't have a lot of confidence in him. Not that I have confidence in a huge amount of confidence in any of the Jets quarterback. I'm not feeling great about Trevor Siemian from what we just saw. I think we're in a bad state at the quarterback position, no doubt. But I think Zach still gives us the best chance to win. Unfortunately, that's the state of affairs. And with nobody up front, I mean, clearly, man, it's not working up front. I'm not sure what quarterback could be really successful with what's going on up front.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's pretty clear to everybody now that Zach gives us the best chance to win. Tim Boyle, 14 of 25, 148 yards. But I mean, the numbers don't even really, illustrate how bad he was when watching that game. I mean, doesn't have any mobility. He is super inaccurate sometimes on what it seems like are simple, like intermediate throws. And then the one thing that he was supposed to do was understand the offense and be able to make reads. But I have multiple examples. You can find them all over the internet of him just missing guys who are wide open. First play of the game, we run a play action. Garrett Wilson is down the field. He has single coverage. Let it go. What?
Yeah. Nick, I think I remember that play, and I believe there was a hot blitzer coming up the middle, and Dalvin Cook didn't even touch him. Dalvin Cook was supposed to block that guy, and Dalvin Cook standing over here while that guy running right in this guy's face. I mean, it's not.
I don't think that was the first play of the game.
I could be mistaken.
And Dalvin Cook, look, we'll get into him in a little bit, but yeah, he can't stay in front. He can't block anyone. But the very first play of the game, he had time and he dumped it off. And Garrett the whole thing is that what else are we running this play for if it's not for Garrett Wilson to have single coverage down the field? Now, what it was the fact that they showed man and then they dropped into a zone. So his initial read is a little bit off because he thinks that, but what ends up happening is, I think it was cover 3. He ends up being alone with the safety. And so that's just something that he didn't dissect quick enough. And now, we miss out on that opportunity. And then that continued to happen throughout the game, no matter who was in the game. Now, some of them, it was because the guys had no time and there's no way that they could let that play develop and be able to even get the ball down the field. But a lot of them were just the fact that they just didn't see him. They're just, these guys are just missed. And, Trevor Siemian, he's a statue out there. I mean, we can't. That cat can't move at all. And, also was not, making very accurate throws. And like you said, with the 14th different offensive line combination of the season, we've gotten to a point where we can't stay in front of anybody. And it's going to be hard for anybody to be successful in that scenario. But it does seem now like Zach is the guy. We will get into that a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about what we saw in that game. The defense was the first. The defense put the first score on the board. They got the safety. I think it was at the end of the first quarter. You got Quinnen busting through the line. I mean, that's the type of play that, like, there's about 2 or 3 defensive tackles in the league can make, where they can just be that explosive off the line, slip pass, create havoc, And then we got my man Ashton Davis coming through and making the play. Ashton Davis, he's actually made some plays this year for the first
Yeah,
time
yeah.
in a long time. He still don't look like a third round pick, I'll tell you that. But this year he's been able to be on the field and has looked a little bit better. I will say, before I ask you to tell me what you thought about the defense, one thing that I gotta bring up: Quincy Williams. Yo, man, he's not jumping off the screen these last couple weeks like he was earlier on in the season. And so I thought about that, and then I went and I dug, and he had 4 tackles last game. He had 6 tackles against Miami. Remember, this guy was racking up 12, 13 tackles. He was flying off the screen and looking like an absolute Pro Bowler, all pro. And now we've seen some regression. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm hoping that he can pick it up, here down the stretch.
Well, Nick, I mean, you have to realize that we're not the only ones who saw Quincy Williams. The other people in the league saw Quincy Williams. They're scheming to let him not ruin their plays now, which I think they probably weren't doing early on in the season. So their offensive coaches are making sure they know where Quinnen Williams is and Quincy Williams is on every play, because
So let me ask you this real quick.
Let me ask you
this real quick about that. So why is Mosley continued to just be, why are his stats so consistent then?
I mean, he's a quality linebacker, even though I know
thought
you
Quincy
don't feel
was
that
too.
way. I think Quincy is too, but he's going to continue learning. He's going to continue learning.
That one post-COVID year, Mosley was looking a step slow, wasn't playing that well. I've given Mosley his props last year and this year. Last year, he showed me he's still that guy, and this year I thought he's played pretty well. But I thought that Quincy was becoming one of those guys too, and now we're seeing a little bit of a drop off, and it makes me a little nervous. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Quincy's still a very good player. The one point I wanted to make is that, well, going back to the quarterbacks, is that Zach, if we remember, if you think about some of Zach's best throws, I'd say the majority of his best throws this year and best plays this year has been when he's thrown the ball on the move. Okay, so what he gives us, that's because the play broke down, obviously, because he had no blocking. Then he escapes and he makes a great throw. He's done that a few times. These two guys just simply cannot do that. They cannot do that. And I mean, it's unfair. It's like asking me to run a 4.5 40. It's not going to happen. So, I just understand that, those guys, they're just ill-equipped to deal with what's happening with this offensive line right now. I just, you need a guy that's got some mobility back there. And hopefully Zach can do that going forward. But the defense, I feel encouraged about. They played well last game. They definitely played well enough to win. And we just didn't get it done on the offensive side of the ball, period.
Yeah, I mean, Dalvin Cook, he looks like he's had like 2 of the 3 best runs he's had all season in the first quarter. He looks like he's getting it going. And then he puts the ball on the ground. And then once he puts the ball on the ground, it seems like right after that, that's when they immediately go and get that touchdown. Your boy Whitehead gets straight up burnt for a tutty. And just, after that, it just kind of felt like the offense, it felt like we started to get a little bit something going with the offense, and then it just took the whole wind out of our sails. You kind of felt like you had a chance throughout the game just because it continued to stay a one score game because,
right.
They only scored 13, but it almost just like I got a feeling of just dread once that fumble happened, and then they scored the touchdown right after.
Well, no, definitely. I mean, that hurts you incredibly because we gave them the short field, and they were able to come down and score after that, which most teams are able to do, unlike us. But the deal is, if we give people a short field, I mean, look, I wasn't happy that Jerome Whitehead got burnt on that, but the fact of the matter is, Nick, the league is built. The league rules are made so that receivers catch balls and burn defensive backs. The only team that I see not doing that is us. But I feel like if one of our guys gets burnt once in a 2 weeks, 3 week span, I mean, there's no way we can play better defense than that. You know, I mean, we have to burn somebody at some point too, and we're not. So we leave the defense zero chance to make any mistakes. It's just very difficult to play defense that way. And again, if we're playing defense from the lead, we're a different defensive team, much better defensive team, but we haven't had a lead in forever.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, Dalvin Cook, we talked about before his inability to block. Both of those strip sacks were him totally whiffing on the block.
Whiffing.
Just whiffing or just like turning one way and the blitz is coming from the other way and he has no idea what's going on. I thought he was a veteran. He's another guy who was on the team because of Aaron Rodgers. He's another guy to add to the list of all those people that we brought in we brought in because of, you know, GM Aaron Rodgers, and they all suck.
See, I don't know that though, man.
100%. Dalvin
Aaron Rodgers said everybody that could speak about it wanted Dalvin Cook.
Right. But the thing is that unless you have, first of all, Aaron Rodgers was very vocal about the fact that he, like, you know, that he had seen Dalvin Cook play quite a bit very closely over the years, obviously being in the same division, and that he would love to bring the guy on. And then he was very active in the whole recruiting of it. And it has been reported that, you know, that was one thing that when he went back and said, hey, I'm going to give back all this money, that one of the things he brought up was go out and get a weapon like Dalvin Cook. That's what's been reported. Who knows if that's true? Listen, I'm just saying that everybody that we brought in because of it, if ARod, hopefully ARod is great next year, but everybody that we brought in because of ARod, they're all bad. Every single one of them. Randall Cobb is. I've been through the list before. They're all bad.
Right. I think Dalvin Cook is the guy that we all wanted. We all thought would play much better. Every single person you could speak to who was a Jet fan. In fact, you and I even spoke about it and said, why would anyone not want Dalvin Cook? Why would any Jet fan not want this guy? And here we go. We got him. And for some reason, the guy's in the fucking tank. Now, like you said, he was starting to run well. I thought, okay, here's where, remember I said to you earlier in the year, Dalvin Cook's going to come on at the second half of the year. And I still think he might come on, Nick. It just doesn't matter now because we can't win 10 games, okay? That's out the window. So you might see some games where this guy plays better, but, you know, dude, man, you got to know your responsibilities. And, I mean, that's not even bad playing. That's just not knowing what you're supposed to do. I mean, come on, man. That's pretty straightforward. You know, you got to pick up the blitz when you're in the backfield, when you're the third down back. What are you doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just been really, really disappointing to see, what he's done throughout his career. And I mean, he hasn't flashed any of that. I do remember being very excited about us getting him. I remember going and looking at his highlight reel and being like, you know, every time I see a highlight of this guy, he's just running away from everybody. And we see none of that. Some of that is definitely our offensive line not being able to give him holes, but he also seems like he's lost a step. And most running backs, when they are on their first team and they're, you know, they're world beaters, when that first team decides to get rid of them, it's usually because they see that it's you know, this guy's falling off a little bit, and we see it over and over and over again.
I'm totally out on getting the veteran running back ever again. It doesn't work, and when it does work, it's fleeting. No, get a young guy, get him cheap, put him in there, let him go. I want to see some of Izzy throughout the rest of the season. Let's see what we got in him. Because I will tell you, that offensive line is demoralizing the running backs too. I don't think Breece Hall has forgotten how to run.
No.
He gets very good now.
He gets hit in the backfield.
He gets hit as soon as he gets the ball. And that's demoralizing for a running back, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it breaks their spirit after a while. And I get it. So, you know, I'm not happy with what we've seen from Dalvin Cook. But again, it all starts up front.
All starts up front. You've been telling me that my entire life. Games won in the trenches, that's for sure. You did mention before that, you know, the rules are set up for, you know, the offense obviously to be successful. It's an offensive league. We know that, you know, points draw eyes. But we're talking about how the rules are set up. Well, if only the rules could be followed by the guys wearing the striped shirts. Second quarter alone, DJ Reed interception taken back for a phantom penalty where the guy runs into him and they call him for illegal contact down the field, an outright deplorable holding on Garrett Wilson that erases a 30-yard run by Brees. We have as many problems as we have. We break off a big run, and I'm like, damn, Garrett, I can't believe. And they show that call, and I'm like, yo, where was the hold there? There's absolutely no hold. And then the targeting call on DJ Reed, where he makes a perfect shoulder tackle. He hits the guy with his shoulder. He does not hit him with his helmet.
That's exactly what you want him to do.
He makes it's a tackle that you would take the video and show it to D-backs on how to dislodge that ball, but still do it legally. But yet they call that as well, and that's all just in the second quarter. They basically gifted them 3 points. Love having Jonathan Vilma on the call because first of all, you could sell. He's got some Jets roots, and he feels that a little bit because he seemed like he was a little bit of a homer in our favor, which I'm totally for. But then I just felt like, I was just glad that we had somebody who was pointing it out and talking about the fact that, this is a bad job by them. And he continued to hammer them throughout the games as far as like, well, they should have called that holding because they've called every other ticky-tack holding. I just get frustrated with the officials. And at the end of the day, like what I'm thinking, and I know you hate this, but listen, this is happening all over the league. It's happening all over sports. Give me the robots. Whatever we can do to make it, because in today's world, the replays are too clear and too quick, and I can immediately see something that give me the robots and give me all the reviews. Everything's reviewable. Eye in the sky can quickly say, no, that's the wrong call. Go down to the refs. And if it's clear and just make sure that we're getting the closest thing to right. Because if you watch that Chiefs-Packers game on that last drive, you have a blatant pass interference that's not called. Just before that, Patrick Mahomes gets 15 yards when he was hit inbounds, and he was still trying to get the first down. I don't understand what you want the guy to do. You watched last night in basketball, you got Suns-Lakers. In the last few seconds, there's a terrible call where they're awarded a timeout, but there was but the guy didn't have possession. And quite frankly, Devin Booker fouled him right before that. Both of those calls are bungled. Even if you go to the World Series this past year, there was games where, balls that are a foot outside are being called strikes. Get everything as close. I just want correct calls. Get everything as close to robots or eye in the sky, immediately making the change in all sports. I don't want to watch a game where I know that call was just missed. It totally changed the game, and we could everybody knows it. We all just saw it, but we go ahead and we just play the next play. I don't get it.
You have legitimate gripes, but I disagree simply because, I just if one of our teams, Knicks, Mets, or Jets, were losing games because I thought the umpires or refs calls were costing us games, that would be one thing. We're costing us games, and that's my total feeling on that. I think that the human element needs to stay part of the sports. That's just me being old school, maybe. Because I think, Nick, the human element is part of it. The interaction is part of it. I listen. I think at some point, probably in your lifetime, they will go to what you're saying. But I don't think I just rather them not do that. Now, listen, it may go to that someday, and I might say, after a time, hey, this is better. Who knew, right? Okay, but I'm an older guy, and I don't think we should be having self-driving cars either. But that's a whole nother story.
Did you approve of instant replay when it started getting implemented?
Yeah, I did. But it's reviewable. And listen, there's some things I would prefer. They need to tweak some rules, clearly. They need to be better at what they do, clearly. I think the game is a little too skewed to the quarterbacks at this point. It's too much. Quarterbacks are treated like they're in a bubble, and it's not real football. I just don't think it's right. I think that some of the calls against defenders are just outrageous. Like you said, the guy, if I'm a defender and you catch the ball, I can't tackle you in a certain way because that's going to get called, and I can't try to make you drop the ball. That's exactly what I'm told to do.
But the ref, honestly, I don't know how it's even possible for the ref to make that call in real time. It's nearly impossible. That's why they get it wrong all the time. That's why I'm, it's football. There's mad time in between plays all the time. Okay. We always got time in between plays because, this guy's hurt or whatever. And it's built in. We're only seeing like 11 minutes of total action in the entire 3 hours. Okay. So don't talk to me about how you want to speed up the game or anything like that. It's football. That call right there, they make the call, they throw the flag. They should be able to say real quick up to the booth, look at that. Was that correct or was that incorrect? And I think when you slow it down like that, you're going to get it right 90+% of the time. It's still not going to be
I don't have a
100%.
problem with that. The eye in the sky and the review, that's fine. But again, like especially in a game like football, you can't just have all robots. How does
No,
a robot judge pass interference? I understand what you're saying with the robots with balls and strikes, even though I don't want that either. But that
robots in
could be
football for me, like I've said before, is the tennis
just the eye in
technology
the sky.
and the tennis technology with the ball and the field.
Right.
There should be
Right.
no like whether or not somebody got a first down or whether or not somebody scored. That should be done in a second, and we should know 100% accurate. If they can do it with that tiny tennis ball, they can do it with a football.
And now you're putting the guys on the chain gang out of work.
Okay, fuck them. Get them out of here. Also the chain gang. Could there be? Anybody could do that. You could be. Let me not say that word.
You used to be the chain gang at my flag football team.
At your flag football when you played adult flag football. Yeah, I was. Yeah, exactly. And I was like a 14-year-old kid, and I could do it. So that's my point. All right, but yeah, no, we gotta, and even if you want to keep it for the drama, where you did, but that's the thing. That whole tennis, that drama of putting the chain out. Have you ever seen when there's an in-out call in tennis and they do the and it gets closer? You see, that would be awesome on an NFL big screen with 50, 60, 70,000 people all screaming and like that would be so good. And it would be 100% accurate. It makes no sense. They got all the money in the world and they're still doing the chain game. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't have a problem with what you're suggesting right now.
All right. Let's get back to the Jets. So Monday, reports come out from Diana Russini, amongst a few others, that the Jets would like to go back to Zach Wilson, but that he is reluctant. He's not inclined to risk getting hurt. This obviously blows up. Then we have the addition of the Joe Benigno angle. Then we have Rogers weighing in. And then today, finally, we find out that Zach has been named the starter and will start this Sunday against the Houston Texans. Let's backtrack a little bit. Tell me what you thought when you first heard on Monday that the team wanted to put Zach back in, but Zach was not willing.
Well, listen, you know me, Nick. I'm a football purist. I feel like when the coach tells you go in the game, you go in the game. And if you go in the game, you just have to go in the game. When he tells you to go in the game, you go in. That's it. So I felt kind of like if this was factual, if Zach was really digging his heels in that he didn't want to go in the game, then I would then, I would have cut him immediately. That's me. Okay. Now, I think also too, more than likely what happened is Zach, being stupid, maybe was talking to people and saying things like that, as opposed to, and listen, when you're just talking with your friends, that's one thing, or teammates, that's one thing. I don't think he went to the coach and said, I don't know, coach, because I don't think the coach would have been happy with that. And I think that would be, as Aaron Rodgers said, that's career suicide. I think he probably said it maybe in a training room or around other guys in the quarterback room, and then somebody or a couple guys leaked it. And that just sucks, man. That sucks. Because honestly, if somebody in that quarterback room, Tim Boyle, leaked that, there's no good reason for him to leak that unless he's trying to help himself. And it's self-serving. Because you have to know, if you leak something like that, how badly that's going to make that guy look. Okay. And I'm sure, listen, I'm not going to tell you other people have said, or reluctancy or whatever, but other people definitely talk about, oh, behind that line, you're going to get killed and you might get injured, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You say stupid things. But to leak that to the press, I just think was piss poor, man. And I'm very saddened by it. I'm sad that I wish that it was a tighter ship and that no one would say that. But when you're in this situation where the team is playing like shit and the season is going downhill, you know, you these things, you know, things start to splinter. Salah needs to keep the team together. And, you know, if it was in fact Tim Boyle who said it, he got cut summarily immediately, right? I think other guys on the team know. I mean, come on, man. It would just, why did they just cut him? Why we had to have Brett Ripien on the team?
Ripien, yeah.
Yeah, his father was a Super Bowl guy, Mark Ripien, for the Commanders. No,
Chargers.
It wasn't like, huh?
Didn't he play for the Chargers too,
No,
Mark Ripien?
His father had his best years with the Redskins.
Okay.
Mark Ripien. Big guy, big Indian looking. He actually looked like he was native. I think he might have been part native. But I mean, again, man, if this guy did this, you know, Tim Boyle did this, and I have a hard time believing it wasn't him, because why did he get cut? You know, man, and I got to think, man, if other teams know that he did that, that's a big strike on his, you know, resume.
It doesn't matter.
My locker room.
It doesn't matter if they know he's a cancer. They know that he can't play quarterback in the NFL. He couldn't play quarterback.
I know that, but he keeps getting chances to be a backup.
He keeps getting chances to be a backup, and most of those recently have been him, you know,
following Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly, and that shit is over. Obviously,
that might be over for him.
He will never get a job in the NFL ever again. I mean, he's done nothing to show that he is even a third string quarterback. Maybe on somebody's practice squad. I think the practice squad is or you know, maybe the XFL or some shit like that. But nah, yeah, that guy, he's out. He's not. Like, we've been through his stats in college. We've been through his stats in the NFL. We've seen what he is. He come on, he ain't it. He just ain't it. But so Rossini has said that she got it from multiple sources. Okay. And she doubled down on it as well and said, like, basically everybody in the building knew that. This is not like some, like, you know, that he's had this conversation, that's something that's been out there. And she says that, I mean, she got very, very specific, and there's like a back and forth between her and Rodgers a little bit, because this is the second time where he's totally refuted one of her reports. Remember before, she said that he gave the Jets a list, and he said that she was totally wrong and like named names. And then her last thing that she said about it was, Aaron was told to speak with Zach last Wednesday about changing his mind. I was told that it didn't even work initially. Zach said thanks, but no thanks. This is what I'm going to do moving forward. He has now changed his mind. Someone from Zach's camp reached out to tell Rossini that if he was offered the starting job, he would now take it and play. And then her last quote was, "The Jets know, I know. Zach Wilson knows, I know. And Aaron Rodgers, once again, has gone on television to refute a report that's accurate."
See, but Nick, I saw Aaron Rodgers, the Pat McAfee. Mm-hmm. I didn't see him say, Zach didn't say that. He never said that, Nick. He never said that.
He didn't. He did not say that.
If someone, and I think when I heard him speak,
no. This is okay. This is the part that I think that they're going back and forth about. He's saying that he never had a conversation with Zach about the fact that, like, hey, he's saying the way that the whole him having the conversation with Zach saying, hey man, you really, you know, probably should play. This could be career suicide. Zach initially saying no, and then you know, coming around. Aaron is saying that he said what he says in the McAfee show is, he says that the whole conversation with him and Zach, that wasn't you know, that was not portrayed accurately. And Rossini is saying absolutely yes, it was.
But you know what, Nick? Rossini is saying that because she heard it from somebody. She wasn't on the phone call. So Rossini can say, I mean, and listen, I don't know. And one thing is, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, there's certain things I'm not going to tell anybody the truth about.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if Aaron Rodgers says
Including
that's not
yeah,
the way the conversation happened, and that's a lie, okay, so what?
certain
I would
things.
do the same thing.
Well, certain things, including your vaccination status, if you're Aaron. Certain things that you're
Right.
not going to necessarily tell anybody about.
Right.
No, but
Certain
anyway,
things you don't come across about. And
yeah, and that's his
I
business.
think I saw Zach. I mean, I saw Aaron saying that he felt like for someone. I found that Aaron seemed more upset with someone in the organization who leaked this to the press. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard some guys on the radio this morning saying he was attacking the press. I didn't hear that at all. He just said that if someone wants to leak this and then so to reporters and attack this guy's character, that sucks, and it does.
He did talk about the press attacking Zach's character. He did.
I think if you re-listen, man, he's really talking about the person who leaked it that is attacking his character. I did not hear him say directly that the press is doing this, because I heard him say, hey, I know these reporters have to do their job, but for someone to leak it, that would attack this guy's character. And anyone who leaks it has to know that this is a crushing thing to leak about Zach. And it's fucked up. And listen, the mistake Zach clearly made is talking about this out loud with other people around, which was stupid. Okay, really stupid and immature, stupid. But if you have those conversations, it should be in hushed tones to somebody, maybe to your wife or to one other guy, but not, in the training room, or with other people around. And that's clearly what he did. And clearly more than just one guy. One guy leaked it, and then other guys confirmed it. That sucks. That sucks, man. That shouldn't happen. And that doesn't happen on every team, because a lot of guys say a lot of bullshit and shit that you don't want out there in the press, and it doesn't get leaked. When things go south, things start to splinter. And I think that's what we're seeing. And honestly, if that was Tim Boyle, I'm glad he's gone. He's got to go anyway, but that just really sucks, man. That's not a teammate for you. That just really sucks.
So yeah, no, I mean the whole thing just it's once again, the Jets are a laughing stock. Like, it really says it's really unfortunate the way that it portrays the entire organization. And you really just can't let stuff get out. One of the things that I've seen that we've talked about before is like with the Knicks, when we got this new regime in, all of a sudden you started seeing less leaks. And then a deal would just happen without all the leaks and and it was like, okay, we're starting to run a tight ship here. But as far as Aaron Rodgers, what he said yesterday on the McAfee show, he said, when you use sources and try and assassinate someone's character like that report does for Zach, I have a real hard time with that. You basically saying this kid is quitting on the team and doesn't want to play. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, he says when you use sources, he's talking about the press.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess we can see that, but I clearly think that his main issue was with the leaker, not the press.
Oh, I think that was definitely
with the press. But when the press gets information like that, they're clearly going to put it out after it's confirmed by 2-3 people. They're clearly going to put this out. And I heard Diana Rossini say, by the way, she's with the Athletic now for like 3 months. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I heard her say that, they have a very stringent process there at the Athletic to put these things out. And she had to have numerous sources to put it out. So
100%.
I believe she had numerous sources. No, I believe she had numerous sources. And listen, with that kind of information, if you're a reporter, you're putting it out. That's what you get paid to do.
And I mean, she clearly was telling. I mean, listen, everything from how Salah's reacted, how Rodgers talked about it. I mean, clearly he did have some reluctance. I mean, that was, and she never said like, he just said, she said specifically that his reluctance was about the potential of him possibly getting hurt. And then her response to the whole thing, just to kind of tie everything together, was all the people that we've been talking to, they aren't lying to us. And Rodgers made it pretty clear that he's just frustrated with the information getting out. So the thing is that she's saying like, I don't think that that's his major frustration is obviously the fact that it got out, and he made that very clear. I do think that he also, and especially when it comes specifically to Rossini, has a couple times been like, she's saying this, and I'm not, that's coming from her, but I don't know who her sources are. I mean, that's what he was saying last time, and he, like I said, he called her out by name last time when it had to do with him giving the Jets a list. Whatever, I think that if Zach Wilson has a chance to start in the NFL, he should fucking take it. Okay, because at the end of the day, he has not had the greatest situation, but he has not done anything on his end to show anybody that he is a starting caliber or even good backup in this league. And when you look at the way he dealt with things last year, especially with, the comments that he made that ended up leading to his benching, if you got a chance to play in this league, you need to play. You're getting paid a large amount of money, and the team calls on you. Put your helmet on. Let's go. Okay.
That's 100% correct. But Nick, I would just say this, that I don't think he's the first quarterback on a shitty team to say things like that. What I said is,
all of them were wrong too.
Right. The main issue is that he said it out loud to the wrong people, and those people decided to leak it, So I wish he would never say things like that because it's just stupid. And I honestly think he didn't go to the coach and say that. He was just like talking and venting probably, but you shouldn't do that. Clearly, you learned a valuable lesson here, guy. Don't do that shit in front of people because you don't know who you can trust.
Well, it also doesn't sound like he was just, having that conversation quietly with one person. That's what it sounds like,
Obviously not.
And I don't even get, because if I'm another guy on that team, if I'm a guy who, if I'm a starter on that team who is if I'm Quinnen Williams and this guy says some shit about how, I don't know if I want to play or get hurt, I'm like, yo, I'm out here busting my ass and putting myself on the line every single week. What the fuck are you talking about? See, that's that, billionaire family growing up, growing up in Utah type shit. And other cats on the team ain't trying to hear that shit. So that's the thing. When this game, he's now the starter, Zach needs to have a good game this week. And I think not just for him and for the Jets, but I think for his standing within that locker room and just, does this become a situation that just gets more and more toxic until it's just disgusting at the end of the season and it's a cesspool? Or is it something where, we can at least be competitive in some games, maybe score over 10 or 13 points. And, maybe this guy can show some potential that makes any team feel like he should be on their roster next year.
I think a lot of things are said in the locker room, Nick, that we'll never know. And I think a lot of things are just said between guys having conversations. I don't think Zach went and said that out loud in front of the defense. Okay. I don't think he's that stupid, but I think he maybe said it in like somewhere where he felt like he could talk, like in the quarterback room or something like that. I think that's a real possibility. And
but I think within a couple of days, the entire team knew.
Of course, Nick.
Right, but I'm saying Zach before it even got out to Rossini, before it even came out.
But Zach didn't expect anyone to talk about that. That's just people talking and venting, Nick. Guys say all sorts of shit. I'm sure there's guys on the defense who say outrageous shit about the offense. Mm-hmm. Okay, who are saying they fucking suck, or maybe saying outrageous shit about Zach. That fucking guy sucks. He couldn't play. He couldn't play dead or whatever.
We know that,
but nobody is leaking that.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, man. Everybody on the team has to keep that shit in the room, and we didn't do that. Clearly, we didn't do that in a spectacular way.
Well, hopefully we sent the message by getting Boyle out of there. It doesn't look great when a guy starts and then gets cut, a few days after he starts. But, doesn't look great. Honestly, if he wasn't the leak, and that's not the reason that, and I will say Saleh was very complimentary of Boyle in general today during his presser. But if he wasn't the leak and now we just got rid of this guy 2 days after he started, I don't think that's a great look either. I think the entire thing, everything from Saleh saying today that, he's always felt like Zach gave us the best chance to win. but when things aren't going well, you got to try something different. I just hope that all of those things are solid decisions. I just hope that all of those decisions are being made solely by him. And I'm not sure about that. Who knows? We'll probably never know. You talked about, not saying things out loud to certain people. Well, saying things out loud also that also consists of texting, and maybe texting local radio hosts your opinions about what's going on with the team within the organization. Joe Benigno, who we both love, and he comes on Tiki and Evan and Tiki, and he talks about a text conversation that he was going back and forth with Robert Saleh. Says very clearly he doesn't like the quarterback. He doesn't like Zach, and says that when he said put Zach back in the game, this guy came back and said, "Are you kidding me?" This immediately catches fire in the New York media, a little bit nationally as well. Joe Benigno comes on the next day, says he misinterpreted it. He was more saying, "Are you kidding me? Like, after all those things you said as far as get this guy out, now you're saying get this guy back in." Immediately, I mean, so many people are crushing Benigno for having the loose lips, talking about this on the air. This is a private conversation that you're having with this guy via text. I mean, it seems like almost anybody would know that you can't just now off the cuff decide to start talking about the intimate details of that conversation. And Joe, you're a Jets fan. You know that this isn't good for us. You seem to like and be friendly with this guy, Saleh. You played golf with them. You guys clearly have some sort of rapport and a relationship. I don't understand what you said. You said that you heard it live, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear it till later that night, and that's when the fire had started to ablaze a bit. And man, even with that, when I listened to it, I was like, oh shit, I couldn't believe how just candid and just carefree he was being about talking about this personal text conversation. And I mean, if I was Salah, I'd be furious. He actually did say today that Joe's a good guy, but I think that's also him just trying to fan
Salah
the flames.
never crushes anybody publicly.
Right.
He's too nice a guy for that. But listen, if I'm Salah, I'm feeding Joe with the long handled spoon now. I'm not getting that close to Joe. Okay? Because Joe has shown you that, I mean, come on, man. That was Bush League on Joe's part. And I'm a big Joe Benigno fan. And I think he knows he messed up right there. He shouldn't have done that, And I think his misinterpretation was in fact a misinterpretation. I don't think Saleh was telling Zach, telling Benigno, I hate Zach. He obviously was saying, to me, but that's the way he presented it on Evan and Tiki. And it was just like, dude, what are you saying? And, again, man, first of all, Saleh shouldn't be sharing that shit with nobody. Saleh shouldn't be getting too in depth with anybody.
Especially not a loudmouth radio host. I mean, I like Joe too, but that's what he is.
Exactly. And like, okay, talk to your man, Mike LaFleur, over in LA or something. Talk to somebody like that if you got a vent. Okay, people who you think can stay tight and who you were in their wedding and shit. Don't be talking that shit to Joe Benigno, man. It's just a foolish move on Saleh's part, disappointing. But again, why Benigno would share that with people, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It really is. And then he goes on Boomer and Carton the next day. I'm sorry, not Boomer and Carton. It's Boomer and Geo now. He walks it back. And they were killing him, by the way. They were absolutely crushing him for it because, I think that even a lot of guys that are in the sports media, and I heard Stephen A even commented on today. He said, yeah, you never do that. You never, whether it be coaches or players, any type of private conversation, unless they say like, and this is on the record, or if they say it, you have to ask them, is that on the record?
Right.
So it's just like, I mean, listen, Joe had all those commercials about, his remember back in the day, he had those commercials about him getting his journalism degree at like the University of Connecticut, whatever. It's not reflecting well on What was it?
Connecticut Broadcasting School,
Right,
CBS.
right, right. Yeah. Not UConn, but yeah. CBS. So yeah, he gets it from he used to always have those on the fan, right? He used to always have
Right.
those commercials. And clearly they didn't teach him too much about journalistic integrity there.
Exactly. And that's the point. He was in a broadcasting school. He's not a journalist.
Right.
Okay. He doesn't understand journalistic integrity and the things you and I have spoken about that. Certain things you just shouldn't say. And
But Dad, I mean, doesn't
over the line.
understand it. You and I understand it. Come on, man. There's so many people understand that. And so many people, I'm sure, as they were hearing it, were like, yo, wow, that's a bit much, Joe. But come on, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Joe's a little angry. Oh, the pain.
He's got to be better. He's got to be better. All right. So this week, after all the drama, Zach will be starting. Your man Garrett Wilson. I'm really he's getting frustrated, man, and rightfully so. I really, really hope that we can see him get unleashed this week, and we can figure out a way. We play the Texans. We're plus 5.5 right now. The Texans, they did just lose that rookie receiver, Tank Dell. We'll get to see a name that we're familiar with, our boy Blake Cashman. He's got 82 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 1 pick.
Blake is a good player.
He was just always hurt when he was a Jet. That was
Right.
the issue. He was always hurt when he was a Jet, but when he is on the field, he's a good linebacker. He's a smart linebacker. I think that if we score 21 points, we can win this game. I think us scoring 21 points, the odds are very much against that actually happening. But the one thing that we're going to see in this game is we're going to see a rookie quarterback who plays on a team that was shit last year, and this year is not just like looking competent, but looking like a world beater. So, Zach, if you go and you're on the opposite end of the field, last week the offensive line was the best I've maybe seen it all season. Okay, for the Jets. We had a little bit of time, still can't run the ball. One quick aside about the running the ball. I just thought about this. I texted you at one point. I said, we have to stop running the ball. We have to throw the ball every down. Like, we simply just can't do it. And at this point, if we continue to do that, we're just giving away a down and possibly 2 or 3 yards whenever we do it. So I thought we should have started throwing the ball a little bit earlier in the last game. I think in this game, if we're not running the ball early, we got to open it up and let Zach air it out and let him duel against this kid. And hopefully for Zach, he can have a showing that allows you to feel like, it's going to be real glaring if this guy just, balls out against us, especially our defense, and Zach, isn't able to, at least put some points on the board, at least look, at least look like he has an idea of what's going on, and he's an NFL quarterback in his 3rd season who started 32 games.
I keep hearing people saying, let Zach air it out. Joe Benigno said the same thing you just said. Got to let him air it out, all this, that, and the other thing. Let me tell you something. If he airs it out, if we're not getting any separation from the defenders, which a lot of our receivers have not, including Garrett at times, if we're not getting any separation and he throws 2 or 3 interceptions, nobody's going to want to talk about airing it out anymore. Okay? People always say, let Zach air it out. Let him throw the ball deep. First of all, you don't have the time to throw the ball deep. Second of all, when you do, if the guy's not free or open, it could turn into an interception. So, I mean, just realize, be careful what you ask for. And hopefully we can air it out, because hopefully we do give him some more time this weekend.
There's the part that we obviously do have to give him more time. But even Saleh said in his press conference today, he talked about the fact that
rip it.
You got to get out there and you got to rip it. You got to there's times where Zach misses guys who are open down the field and where he's been a little bit tentative. Now, clearly, he wants to do his best to not turn the ball over, and that's important. And I think at this point, first of all, you're 4-7. Second of all, you have a great defense. We know that even if you give up some turnovers, even if you turn the ball over some, we're still going to be able to hold them to 3 sometimes, and sometimes be able to, erase that turnover for you. What we need is a couple big plays and a couple points. So I'd rather see him risk more turnovers and also risk more big plays. And then I think that's what we have as a chance to win, because we know that we're going to do a pretty good job of keeping these guys, under 30 points. We do that almost every week. can we score more than 10? That's what it
Right.
really comes down to. So I'd like to see him air it out. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. They gave us some drama to make this week a little bit more interesting, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, just gotta wait and see, man. It's all a wait and see game.
All right, go ahead and switch over and talk about the Knicks. Last week,
Uh,
last week we took care of business against the Pistons, took care of business against the Raptors on a second half of a back-to-back, won
great.
both of those games big. Felt really good coming into last night's game against the Bucks in-season tournament. I'm getting hyped up, thinking about it on Monday, Tuesday, all day. I'm like, let's go, let's go. And then the Knicks lose 122 to 146 to the Bucks. Julius in a loss has one of the best performances I've ever seen him have. Virtuoso, 41, 6 and 5, 14 of 19 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, 11 of 12 from the line. Just seemed like he was just getting to all his spots, hitting all his shots, looked great. But all of that in a loss. Just an overall really, really tough game. The defense, it was bad in the first half. It was abhorrent in the second half. Absolutely terrible. They shoot 61%, 22 of 38 from three, 61%. Talk to me, big guy. How'd you feel about the Knicks getting bounced by the Bucks?
Yeah, that was very distressing, but you saw it in the first half. We gave up 75 points in the first half. Now, our offense looked great. We scored, what, 72?
Mhm.
But, you know, I get it. We can talk about Julius' stats and all that, but I will tell you, to a man, every man on the team played like shit defensively. Okay? So I don't give a shit if you score this many points. If you're giving up 150 points, that's a problem, man. You're not going to win when you're giving up 150 points in a game and 75 points a half. I don't care how well you score. We do not have the firepower to think that we're going to, match people shot for shot. We played like shit defense in the first half, and we came out. We did the same thing in the second half.
But
We
worse in the
didn't
second
step
half.
it up. Well, we gave up actually less points.
Yeah, but I just thought that
I agree.
we played worse. Like when you got this guy, friggin' what's that guard's name? Malik Beasley.
Campaign.
No,
Beasley.
Malik Beasley just spotting. How often do you see the Knicks under Thibodeau have a guy catch the ball and be able to sit there and line it up and take his time, tie his shoes? I saw that so many times last night, and that's not typically how we play defense. And it's just really unfortunate because we know the whole in-season tournament and everybody should be hyped up for this. And we come out and we play so well off. I mean, throughout the game, not just in the first half. We scored 122 points. The only issue I have with offensively is we did not attempt or hit enough threes. But just it's hard to win an NBA game when you're making, less than 5 threes in a game, especially when the other team is, making 22. But we just can't give up 146 points. I mean, point blank, period. And in the first half, both teams were not playing a lot of defense, and we just, we're having a shootout. In the second half, they turned their defense up, and we did not. And there was way too many times where there was one pass and a wide open three, where typically we're running that guy off a shot, and making them go to their second, third, and fourth options. We just weren't doing that. And that's exactly why they were able to run it up like they did. You don't shoot 61%. In the first half, there were some shots that they hit that I was like, okay, they're not going to hit those shots all the time. You know what I mean? They're just a little bit hot right now. And usually that it evens itself out over the course of a game. But then in the second half, we came out and decided to make it even easier for them. They already had a head of steam, and we lose by 24 points.
You got to ruin in basketball. You have to get people out of rhythm. First of all, you let them get in a great rhythm in the first half that carried over to the second half. You got to do something to get them out of rhythm in the second half. I don't know if it's a hard foul. I don't know what it is, but we got to do something to disrupt their rhythm. We didn't do that. We didn't play with enough grit. and toughness, and it showed. They're a very good team offensively, clearly, when you got a guy like Giannis and Dame to follow him up. So, listen, man, unless you're bringing your A game, we're not beating that team. Okay, that's a championship caliber team. We're not beating them unless we bring our A game, and we brought like a C- game. Okay,
Oh,
especially defensively.
defensively
It
it
was
was
a
an
D game.
F. Defensively, no,
Yeah.
defensively is an F.
It was
It's
an F. You're right.
100,
It was an F.
146 points, 61%
Yeah.
from three. It's an F.
Yeah.
And especially when you see that they're hitting all these threes, you have to make an adjustment. And that is my one gripe with Thibs in this game is that we typically play drop coverage. That's what we do. That's like always been our that's our defensive identity. There are times where I've seen us, start to go over screens more. And I don't know if you need to rip into these guys. I don't know if you need to change up the strategy. But I thought that the fact that they were shooting so many threes and hitting them at such a high clip, especially in that second half when, the first 3 minutes, they take it from a 4-point lead to a 12-point lead. I think that right then an adjustment needs to be made. I think an adjustment needed to be made as far as getting Grimes out of the game, which we'll talk in a second about him. But also, I think that we needed to be more aggressive in how we were guarding the 3-point line. I just think that we needed to be a little better about that. And I think that, the how slowly the adjustments are made is really my biggest issue with Thibs.
I think Thibs sees it just like you and I do. Like I've said to you many times, he's forgotten more about basketball than we will ever know. And I think Thibs tells these guys, you're not guarding or you're not doing this, or the assistant coaches tell them. But Nick, in a game of basketball, when your guys just aren't playing well, you can yell at them all you want. And listen, up till that game, I thought the Knicks have been playing really well, defensively and offensively, especially defensively. I've been feeling really good about them lately. That was just a shit game. Now, what happens going forward is the real issue. If that was just a one-off, great. But we've got a really, really tough stretch coming up here in December. We're going to have to suck it up, man, because we've got some really tough games coming up away from home. If we don't bring our A game, man, we could come out of this month with a 500 or losing record. We got to be on top of it. There's a lot of tough games coming up away from home.
Listen, we have the hardest schedule the first 2 months. December is absolutely brutal. And it's at this point I kind of felt like, hey, these things would even themselves out. We don't play well against good teams right now. Against teams that are over 500, we have a losing record. We take care of business against the better teams. I'm sorry, against the worst teams, but we have to be better when it comes to bringing the type of intensity. And when it comes to the whole coaching part of it, I put it on my coach to motivate guys. And the thing is that we have an issue now, it seems like, when it comes to coming out for the third quarter. And when I was growing up, shout out to Coach Ruiz, my favorite coach I've ever had. He always used to say that the first 5 minutes of the third quarter are the most important part of the game. They made all their adjustments. Everybody's done what they've done in the first half. And now this is where you're either going to get yourself back into the game or you're going to run away with the game. Okay. And we weren't even able to keep pace because once again, we come out flat in the beginning of the third quarter. And the thing about it is when you play good teams, once you get down 12, 14, 16 points, you might be able to get back in the game, but you're not going to be able to get over the hump. And then they're going to go ahead and they're going to close it out. Are there going to be times where we have a game like the Heat and we come all the way back and win the game? Sure. But more often than not, you're going to fall short. We have to stop coming out in the third quarter. And my thing when it comes to Thibs is I just hope, and we do see him where they see him mic'd up sometimes. He never really seems to be like getting after guys. He kind of just, preaches his philosophy as far as, share the ball and we got to get up in guys, But I wonder if during halftime, he's saying to guys, listen, we've been bullshitting ourselves when we come out in the third quarter and we let these guys come out and, they're able to just totally change the entire landscape of the game. We know that this is a good team. We know that they're coming out in front of their home floor, close game. We have to come out with a certain intensity to start the third quarter. And during that quarter, when things are going bad, during timeouts, when he's calling a timeout, is he just continuing to give coach speak, or is he challenging guys? Like I see Spo do a lot and saying, guys, we are not guarding the 3-point line. We are not getting out on guys. We are not giving the effort. There's way too many open shooters. What are we doing? Wake the fuck up and let's get out here and let's play the way that we can play. I just hope he's doing that. I've never seen him get after guys like that. Like I said, I've seen guys like Spo when they're mic'd up get after guys like that. I've never seen him do that. I hope he's doing that. And it's just this pattern. It's become a pattern. It's become something that is clearly an issue. And with this schedule coming up, just like you said, we better nip it in the bud right now, because if not, we could be looking up going into the new year and wondering, if we can make the play in.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough stretch, and I agree with you. Thibs needs to say and do all those things. I would imagine that he is seeing a lot of that, especially in the locker room to a lot of these guys. But I will tell you who else needs to be there, Nick. Players need to lead, man. Players on that team need to lead. I mean, it just looked to me like everybody was kind of like, with the blank stare, the blank look on their face in that third quarter when they were getting blown. And mind you now, I want my coach to get their ass, but I need my players to, I don't know, lead. I mean, that's where, frankly, Randall and maybe Brunson need to lead. I don't get the impression that Brunson's a very vocal guy. I don't get the impression that Randall's necessarily that vocal with his teammates. But at sometimes we're going to need that from guys, man. We need it. And you know what, Nick? The fact of the matter is, see, I feel like we play really well sometimes, so that tells me that the coach is coaching the team. I think, Nick, we need something else. We need something else. We're not going past. I mean, as presently constituted, do you think we're in the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think so.
You can't say that now when you look at our record against the better teams. Not just
right, but I mean, when you look at like a Boston, Milwaukee, and possibly Miami. Boston and Milwaukee right now, there's no way you would put your hard-earned money for us to beat them in a 7-game series.
No, I got us over Miami. I think we're better than Miami. But no, Boston and Milwaukee, no, we're not. We can't beat them right now. We need guys to listen. RJ's fallen off a little bit. Since he's been hurt, he got out of rhythm. He did end up, having 23 and 8 last night.
Right.
But the thing is that this is also where stats lie, because if you watch that game, RJ in the first quarter, he was being very aggressive. He was imposing his will on the game. Brunson ended up with 24, 3 and 6, 0 for 5 from 3. I mean, and just some of the shots he was missing, like the 15, 16 footers that he pulls up that, I mean, I feel like never miss. Those weren't hitting, and like not even just like not rimming out. They were like hitting the side of that. I texted you early in the game. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen Brunson this off. And he ends up still having 24 points. RJ has 23. But if you watch that game, neither of them had good games. Brunson did not have his typical, he never had that time where he just took over the game. And we as a team, it just seems like we weren't able to string any, other than Julius, nobody was able to string anything together. There was no just like, times where we just had a run. Even all our runs were just Julius runs. Where just like he would just destroy for, a couple minutes and score, guy couldn't fucking miss. But we just didn't. Every time Julius should have had way more assists. He had a bunch of balls that got kicked out to guys that were open that missed threes. And then RJ, RJ got to the line. There was times where we just needed a bucket. We just needed a shot, whether it was Grimes, whether it was quick, and it was like, just hit the three. And we just never were able to get over that hump. And then defensively, we never got 2 stops in a row, it seemed like. It seemed like the entire game, we never got 2 stops in a row.
Well, and that's what I think is the main issue. Offensively, we were fine. Not perfect, but we were fine. Defensively is the issue. If we played better defense, we'd get some easy baskets. And that makes the whole difference. These guys were scoring in the second half easy baskets, sometimes in the half court game, but quite often off of their defense. We never got any of that. And the problem with our team quite often, Nick, and I tell you this all the time, is our baskets are so difficult sometimes. And I mean, I see it with Julius, with Brunson. These guys work to get these baskets and whatnot. But the other team comes down, they move the ball around, and all of a sudden somebody's getting a layup at the rim. And it's like, I'm just seeing these guys scoring so easily,
But
especially that
why
game
is
last
that?
night.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because we played shit defense, Nick. We didn't play enough intense
Okay,
enough on defense.
but listen, overall, we are a very good defensive team.
Yeah,
Why
I'm
is
talking
it
about
that
last night.
But why is it that you think that quite often I think again, this is another issue I have with Thibs. I don't think our offense is inventive enough. I think that our offense is quite often Jalen Cook, Julius Cook. He runs that play top, and it's just like
No,
Julian Cook, Jalen Cook.
I think they've been moving the ball well, Nick. We've been doing better with assists
So then
and all that.
why are our baskets so hard?
We're just not getting easy baskets because we're not playing enough defense to get easy baskets. Now, the games that we won and we played well, we're getting more of those.
So you're saying that the easy baskets come off a transition, but I see other teams in the half court run sets that lead to easy baskets. I don't think we run enough sets that does. So there's times, especially when that second unit, I think that the play call quite often when Julius or when Brunson is the game is Brunson high pick and roll, Julius, everybody else clear out and go to the other side. That's the design of the play, and I think we do that too much. And I think that leads to us having we run ISO more than any team in the league. There's lots of ice players that are better isolation players than Jalen Brunson and Julius. It's just that's not their team system. That is our system to a certain extent, and I think that leads to us just trudging through the mud and having really, really tough times creating easy looks.
Yeah, we do have tough times creating easy looks. I still think defense gives us more easy baskets, even in the half court. We're not playing good enough defense sometimes in the half court. I think a lot of the games that we've won, we've played great defense. We've made baskets difficult for the other team. Last night, clearly not. But when we make baskets difficult for the other team, we're a much better team and we're getting easier baskets. I think games that we lose, we're not doing that. We're just not doing it. And we have to be more consistent about it. Now, mind you, let's not get just, like woe is me. The Knicks are playing pretty well before last night. Let's hope they can pick it up again in their next game. Well, who do we got next? Boston?
Yeah, our reward for getting into this reminds me of back in the day when interleague play, when there wasn't that many interleague games, and the Mets, it's like, oh, cool, we get to play the Yankees, and the Braves get to play the Tampa Bay Rays back when they sucked. Right. And now it's like you look at the Nets, they get an extra game against like Washington and Toronto, and we get an extra game against Milwaukee and Boston before the play-in. So yeah, that doesn't work out so well. So now we get to play Boston on the road on Friday. So, we'll see how that all plays out. Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes has been a little disappointing.
A little disappointing? Dad, you know that I've been railing against this guy all year. I've been saying, Grimes, I need to see more of you. I want to give you his point totals for the last 8 games. 0, 3, 3, 6, 0, 4, 0, 0. And then after not his best stretch, to put it lightly. And then now after the game, you got so much to say. You got so much to say about your role and how you feel like if you miss one shot, then you're immediately going to get pulled, and how it's tough because you're basically just standing in the corner and you don't, you don't know, you used to play the whole first quarter and this and that. I'm sorry. But first of all, how about you just shut the fuck up and give some player speak there and say well, whatever the fuck you got to say. Okay. Second of all, how about you wait until after you have a decent game and they're talking to you and then you say, well, it felt good to be able to get it going tonight. It's been tough this season, with just the role changing and all that. If he said all those things after a good game and almost said it it has been tough, but, hopefully we can get things rolling, the perception is totally different. when you're putting up those type of numbers, your defense has fallen off since last year. The metrics say it, the eye test says it. I still think you're a plus defender, but your defense has fallen off since last year. And offensively, you are a one-trick pony, and that trick, you're not that good at it, okay? Every time I feel like he gets kicked the ball in any type of big situation, it's clanging off the iron. And that's if he even actually puts it up, and he has no ability to do anything else. I want him put on the bench. Give me DiVincenzo. He does so many things so better than Grimes does. DiVincenzo can have a game where he's 1 of 4 and still have a good game. Right. Grimes can't do that. Okay. And the fact now that he's got something to say, all right, keep talking that shit. Keep criticizing Thibs. How'd that work out for Obi? Remember how'd that work out for Obi? All right. So Grimes, we're looking for a star. That's Shams came out today and said specifically that the Knicks are in the that are there purpose, like getting out there and putting out feelers to try to be able to bring in a third star to put with Brunson and with Julius. And so Grimes, you just made yourself 100% part of that deal, okay? Because you want to talk that shit. And now you're putting the microscope on you. I think Ragu is coming for your spot. And I think it should have happened already because the guy he has no offensive game other than a pull-up three that everything has to be perfect. And he still doesn't make that shit. I couldn't believe. I'm already disappointed in him. When I saw the quotes, I was like, yo, word? Like you of all people, you got so much to say?
It's just amazing to me that these guys, but listen, these guys let the emotions get to them and whatnot, but I just think you got to be smarter about things like this. I mean, why are you running your mouth right now? Like you said, it's not a good look, bro. You're not coming from a good place right now. What are you doing? But he did. And hey, listen, man, I was, me, I'm a big Grimes fan, but okay, sorry. If we can find a good deal to bring in a better player, he's got to go. Sorry, he's got to go.
And he doesn't seem like a player to me that he's going to go somewhere else and just be like the man. Like, because he doesn't have the offensive game or the offensive aggression to impose his will on games. I've seen him have a couple games like that for the Knicks, but not with any type of consistency. And you know what? When these other guys get on, other people play with Julius, RJ, and Brunson. Other people play with them, and they're still able to get off shots because they move without the ball. They don't just stand in the corner. They might, rotate up. I just feel like Grimes has no feel. One thing that I did see when I was listening to Locked On Knicks that I do think could help Grimes a little bit is, remember, we used to run Julius and whoever the two guard was, whether that was Bullock or even we did it with Fournier, where they ran a two-man game, and that was part of like that was part of our offense. I think that we could do that with Julius and him a little bit more. I think that would be good for Grimes. I think that would also be good as just to give us a little bit more variety and a little bit more flavor when it comes to offense. But overall, he's not asserting himself. He's not doing anything on the offensive end to assert himself. And it's not just that he only catches the ball in the corner, because I see him catch the ball with a guy right up on him, and he never even considers the idea that he could possibly make a move and get to the rim. So Grimes, I don't know why you want to put the microscope on yourself right now, but guess what? You did. It's on you. And, that white hot light, it's about to get, real warm for you if you don't start doing something. And especially if Ragu looks like he continues to be the much superior player.
Yeah, it's not looking for Grimes right now. I was high on him coming into the season. Unfortunately, this is not working out. But, listen, I still have some small amount of hope that he can pick it up, but you might have to reduce his role, and if the right deal comes along, he's got to go.
You're out. I don't know if I've ever seen a game where Mitch has had less of an impact.
Yeah,
than that game.
That was a little distressing.
I mean, I think you have two
very
players.
tough for him though, playing against this guy Lopez.
Very tough for him against Lopez. Lopez keeps him away from the basket, so then that takes away some of the impact that he can have. I almost think that you should just put Mitch on Giannis one-on-one, have him guard Giannis, and then put Julius on Lopez. I actually think that So, and that's another adjustment that seems pretty clear that we didn't seem like we were
Well,
doing
no,
very
that's what
often.
I think that maybe they should try. But you see, Nick, I don't think that Thibs and all the assistant coaches on the team haven't considered this. They've just decided it's not the way to go.
Yeah,
For
and I
whatever
disagree with
reason,
them.
they've made that decision. Right.
And I
We
disagree.
disagree with them.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's another change that they should make.
Yeah, make the adjustment.
I mean,
Make the adjustment.
I think I was watching the game and I was thinking the same thing myself. But if for whatever reason, they don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
And
I think they're
they
wrong.
might have good reason for it, but we'll see. The other thing is, if you put Mitch on Giannis, how quickly is he going to pick up 4 fouls?
Yeah, that's fine. He gets them helping on Giannis anyway. So you know what I mean? He ends up getting all the fouls helping on Giannis anyway. So I'd almost rather than him coming over when Giannis is already like, gathering and about to make that crazy spin move, I'd rather just have him staying out he's far enough away from him that he, can get a hand up if he shoots a three, even though you'd like him to shoot the three. He always fucking hits at least 1 or 2 threes when he plays the Knicks, though. And then where you can get the hand out on him, and then just kind of basically keep giving ground until he gets close enough and try to meet him at the apex. Whether or not you think that was the right way, even if you had some misgivings as a staff and you thought maybe that wasn't what we should do, I think we should have switched it up. I just think that we are slow to switch things up, and I think that was glaring during the Heat series. And I see it throughout the season. But listen, I'm overall I like Thibs. I like him as our coach. I think that those are a couple things that I wish that we did a little bit better. Your boy Quick. So Quick, as Quick goes, the Knicks go. And I'm looking at it because I started to think to myself, against these games, when we play against some of these upper echelon teams, I feel like Quick doesn't have that great of a game. Well, as we said before, the Knicks haven't performed so well in those games. So did a little bit of digging. Last night, 7 points, 1 of 7, 1 of 4 from 3. Last game against Boston, 7 points, 1 of 10. Game against Minnesota, has 15 points, but he shoots 4 of 14, 1 of 7 from 3. So that's now becoming something to take a look at as well. Quick, when everything's going great, you dancing and shit, and everything's all good. Yeah, so you're a bit of a front runner, is what we're seeing. When things are going well, you can ball, but I need to see when things aren't going so well. Can you be the guy who comes in and rights the ship? I thought that either he or Ragu should have come in for Grimes. Instead of 6 minutes into the third quarter, 3 minutes. And that's another thing about Thibs, where he's very, rigid when it comes to his rotations. And this is actually, yesterday was actually the 1-year anniversary of last year when he decided, okay. So he's very rigid when it comes to his rotations. After 20 games is typically, like he says, that's when he takes a step back and kind of evaluates. Okay, whatever the case may be, I just think sometimes, especially with Grimes, give him a short leash, give me some Quick, give me some DiVincenzo, and just jumpstart us. I think sometimes when things are going bad, it's like, okay, we're down by 4, we're down by 12, make a change. Don't let us get down by 17. Make the change right now. Obviously, revisionist history. There's times when he leaves the guys in and then we come back. Well, I get that. I felt like that in the moment, and now just kind of looking back on it, I thought we should have pulled Grimes a little bit quicker, but Quick, I need him to step up and be that guy when it counts, when it really matters, and when the going gets tough.
Yeah, Quick needs to step it up. I see a lot of people griping that we should have paid Quick before the season and all that, and I agree. I love Quick. I want him to stay on the team, but let's not make it more than it is. And again, Nick, I think the glaring issue is we need another guy. I mean, the Knicks just do, man. They need another guy. I know there's been talks about different people. I know there's been a lot of chatter about DeRozan. I've always liked DeRozan, but he is 34 years old.
Too many mid-range players if we get DeRozan. It's just too many mid-range players. Let me ask you this. When you say we need another guy, you're saying we need like another top flight guy, or like we've talked about before, like a Bogdanović type? Or do you saying we like?
I could deal with a Bogdanović because he can shoot the three.
Right.
And that spaces the floor more.
He had 22 in his first game back with Detroit.
Right.
I think
I like Bogdanović. I've always liked him. He's got some size. I think that's a guy who could really help our team. We don't necessarily need a top flight guy. I mean, who is this mythical top flight guy? We've gotten off the Zach LaVine thing. We realized that would not work. Okay. I think DeRozan, even though he's a mid-range guy, I think DeRozan would help. I really do. Because the other guys, Randall and what's his name? Brunson, they shoot a decent amount of threes, and RJ too. I have no problem with DeRozan coming over, shooting a mid-range shot.
Brunson shoots more mid-range shots than anybody in the league.
Fine. I don't care if we have another mid-range shooter. The thing I like about DeRozan is you can give him the ball and let him get his own shot. I think he actually does that better than Randall. I'm not saying he is better than Randall, but he's better at just getting his own shot at times. And I think at the end of games, that's where we struggle sometimes, is that we just don't seem to have the best guys to get their own shot. Brunson's a little small. And frankly, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Randall this year, but that's not his best position or best situation when Randall is in that situation. Like, you got to get a shot at the end of the game. That it doesn't suit him well. So I actually think DeRozan would be helpful, but DeRozan, Bogdanović, we could obviously get for a lot less. We wouldn't have to pay as much, I don't think. So I'd be inclined to lean that way, but I think something's going to be done before the trade deadline, maybe before the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I hope that if we're gonna, I hope that move gets made sooner rather than later.
Right.
Don't, especially with this stretch that we have coming up, and just in general, just come on, let's. Everybody. It seems pretty obvious to everybody. I don't think that we need another star. I still think that that RJ ascension could definitely still happen within the season. Like I said, when RJ's having a game where I don't feel like he played well and he scores 23 points, that's a decent sign. Did you see Kenny Smith's comment about the fact that when the Knicks play against, no matter who the Knicks play against, they always have the second or third best player on the court. So if the teams in the East, he says the Bucks. Okay, fair. He says Boston. It says Boston. Okay, fair. Then he says when they play against the Magic, the Knicks don't have anybody who's better than Pablo Banchero. And I was like, what the fuck? Brunson and Julius are both better than Pablo Banchero right now. We could talk about his potential, what he could possibly be, but they're better than Banchero right now. I think that's an asinine comment. I think that's crazy talk.
I hear what you're saying. I would be inclined to feel like Julius and Brunson are better, but Paulo's coming, man. Paulo is a hell of a player. I think he's a very, very good young player. And
Paulo.
I
thought I was calling him Pablo. I thought
Paulo.
It was
no B. But he I don't know, dude. I'm not saying he's better than Julius, but he's coming. He's coming. He's not that far off. He's coming, man.
And come on, he averages 19, 7, and 4. Julius is better across the board.
Hey, you use stats when I'm just saying.
But I watch him play. I know.
I think Paulo's very good, and I think he's coming. I think. I'm not saying he's better than Julius. That's what I'm saying. But I think he's hot on his heels. And when I've seen them play against one another, Paulo usually does pretty well when we play the Magic. And it's him and Julius head up. And Paulo seems to be able to get off.
They don't usually guard each other. He usually plays the three. I know he plays power forward, but I just know from watching he doesn't typically get matched up again where him and Julius are just playing 1-on-1 against each other. And I don't think he's close to being as good as Julius right now. I don't even think they're in the. I don't think he's close to it. I don't think he's better than either of them. And like I said, we're not talking about potential. We're talking about right now. I mean, it's his second year in the league. Sure, he has plenty of potential. Who knows when he's going to be his fourth, fifth year in the league? He could be the best player in the NBA by then. I love his game. I loved him in college. I love his game in general. I think his game to me is like more of a modern day Melo with a little bit more spring. But at the end of the day, I think saying that he's better than Brunson or Julius is crazy talk. I think it's wild.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
You saw Stephen A. was saying that he was talking to everybody in the Knicks organization, talking about the fact that they should have drafted Halliburton.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people wanted Halliburton, and what Stephen A. is telling people now that they should have drafted Halliburton.
Well, he said it back then, but he
Yeah,
just recently this week said that he was on the phone with people in the Knicks organization saying, "You got to draft this kid." I mean, like you said, you know that I was screaming it during the draft. We have to draft this kid, Albert. We have to draft this guy. But at the end of the day, I can't say I'd rather have him over Brunson. And do we get Brunson
no,
if we had
no, but we
Halliburton?
wouldn't have Brunson if we had him.
Right. And
I
I
will
like Brunson
say,
better
I watched that game the other night
against
where
Boston.
oh my gosh, he was incredible. I can't believe how deep he shoots from. He's a very good young player, but again, I agree with you. I prefer Brunson. But that said, about that game, I was watching the game, keying in on our man Top. A couple things on Top. First of all, he's not doing anything different than when he was with the Knicks. He stands on the corner at the 3-point line, and I will say this to you, Nick. There were times during that game where, like 5 straight trips down the court, everybody else on the team touched the ball except Top. I felt almost like they were freezing the guy out. They're clearly not involving him too much in the offense, except if it's a breakaway. Top is an incredibly average guy, man. If that, he's not that good. He's just not that good. And the people with the Obi hive or whatever you want to call them, who were screaming he should play over Randall, they just need to have another drink, because that's bullshit. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Top is we're not losing anything by having let him go.
So I tweeted during that game, all you Obi heads, you see that he's not on the floor during crunch time, right?
That's right. That's the other point.
He's a 1.2 trick pony, because the one is that he's a dunker. The 0.2 is his 3-point ability, because he doesn't even get a full 1 for that. He's a 1.2 trick pony and has 12, 2, and 1 in 26 minutes. If you think the Knicks would be better off with Obi over Julius, you just don't know ball. Right. Yeah. Okay. We beat that horse. It's dead. We beat it to death. It's over. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. I wish that we could have played some defense yesterday and Julius would have gotten his opportunity to prove it tomorrow. But it's the Pacers. They're in the Eastern Conference. We're going to play them. We're going to see them. And, it'll be handled on the court. Couple quick notes about our beloved Mets. Did you see that Squirrel went to the Rangers-Jets doubleheader on Sunday?
I only heard about that from you, and listen, Squirrel's that guy, man, love him, and glad that he's embracing the New Yorkness, and sorry that he had to see a shit game in the Jets, but I love all my New York players, supporting other New York teams.
And we do that a lot. I love that. Also, at that same Rangers game, you had Brunson and Josh Hart. They filmed a promo where they were like, "Oh, nice jersey, nice jersey." They were both at the game as well. Shout to the Rangers, one of the best teams in hockey this year. Top 2 in points at the moment, I think. So shout to them. Looking forward to what they could do this season. I did read just before we got on that the Mets are among 7 serious suitors for Yamamoto, which I hadn't been hearing our name a lot when talking about when they talk about Shohei, when talking about Yamamoto. But at this point, I'm hoping that we come away with Yamamoto. Shohei, the more I think about that, man, you can't get this guy $600 million. I know that there's no salary cap, but I think $600 million is a number that might stop us from some of the different things that we can do as far as maneuvering. And I just don't see giving the guy that much money. But I am happy to hear that we are, definitely in the mix for this guy Yamamoto. And it seems like, everybody wants a piece of him.
Yeah, everybody wants this guy, especially after they see how well Senga did last year, So, I'm hoping we can really step out there for Yamamoto. The Shohei thing, I would love to get Shohei, but I mean, you're right. Giving up exorbitant amounts of money when you don't even know if this guy's really going to pitch again, I mean, you just don't know. I don't think that him being a pitcher and as great a hitter I think even if he comes back to pitching, that's not going to last that long. He's just not going to be able to sustain that for like another 8, 10 years. There's no way.
Make
I
him a
think maybe he'll.
reliever.
Right. Make him a reliever.
Well, think
But
about
make
that.
him
If you
a
had this
reliever in
guy,
your DH.
if he's like a eighth inning shutdown guy or your closer, and he's an everyday hitter who's a fantastic, well above average hitter, it's an extremely fucking valuable player. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is.
Because that's a guy who is like, closing games for you and creating offense. If you I almost think that might be, if he comes back one more time and he starts to have any sort of like elbow soreness after this last Tommy John and he takes off all of next year, I think you immediately got to go that route and say, all right, we're going to put you in the bullpen. You can be we know that's still an extremely valuable position. Some people would argue that a closer is almost as valuable as a starter because just of the frequency that they can pitch and influence games. And if he could do that and then continue to be, do that with some health and then continue to, smash the ball, now you're looking at a very, very valuable player. So I listen, if the money's right, and like I said, it's not if the money, if it's not going to affect what else we can do, I don't give a fuck how much money you give them. Go get them, fine, whatever. But 600 million for this guy. It seems like it's a lot. And there's a lot of weird stuff coming out about him as far as like he's just like very secretive stuff like that. Where like he
doesn't want the teams to talk about the fact that they talked or something like that.
But then I even heard somebody put out the fact that like he didn't want to he was talking about his dog, but he didn't want to let anybody know his dog's name or something like that. I don't know. It sounds weird. Who fucking cares? It's not that big a deal. But if the whole very secretive thing, I just don't know how well that's going to work out in New York.
I ain't worried about that. I like guys who are secretive, keep it quiet, like the Knicks management. Real G's move in silence. Let's go. Keep it quiet.
Like lasagna. All right. 49ers crush the Eagles.
Yeah. I think they're the best team in football.
19. Yeah. Listen, we talked about early on in the season them being the best team in football. They got some injuries. Trent Williams is out. And then your boy Debo, he was out. And they had a little bit of a rough patch. But when they're fully healthy, I don't know what you're doing with those guys. With a defense that's that dominant and an offense with, two top tier at their position weapons and a, much better than average receiver and Ayuk. I'm sorry, three, because you got Kittle, Debo, and CMC. All three of those guys are top 2, 3 in the position. And then, you also have this guy Ayuk who, looks like he's just as good as any receiver on the Jets. And so, when you have those guys and you have Purdy able to distribute the ball to those guys, keep the mistakes low, they look like the best team in football. And, the Eagles have found a way, here recently, but they got straight up waxed at home in front of everybody.
Yeah, they got smoked. Listen, San Francisco is the better team right now. And all things being equal, I think they will be the better team at the end of the year. The Eagles are still a very, very good team. I think some of the Jalen Hurts hate coming out is a little bit much. You heard what this guy Derek Carr said, or David Carr said?
No, what do you say?
Whichever one of them is in the studio. Okay.
I think he's always trying to say some shit though, just so we could say so somebody's talking about him because he's always saying some slick shit. But what did he say?
Well, that must have been what he was saying because he said he thinks that what's his name should sit Hurts and play Mariota. He thinks Mariota gives him a better chance to win right now.
Is he saying because of Hurts' knee?
He just no. I didn't read where he said he thought it was because of injury. I only read where he said. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the quote he said something about he will run the team better or read defenses better or some shit like that. I don't know. All I know is that's crazy talk. I mean, Jalen Hurts is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And to say Marcus Mariota would do a better job is just insane. I mean, it's just insane.
I'm looking it up right now. I'd say probably
Mariota's not that good.
The Philadelphia Eagles right now, he'd be more productive. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
As my man Stephen A says, somebody should drug test him immediately.
Right.
And somebody should go up to him and rip his little microphone off of his chest and show him the door. I didn't catch wind of this. I don't know how I missed this, but I'm glad you brought it up. That is asinine. I mean, no one agrees with this guy. He's clearly just trying to, put some clickbait out there
Clickbait.
and, get himself to be somewhat relevant. What the what? What? That is, I mean, does anybody think that Jalen Hurts is not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Does anybody think that he's not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Does anybody think that Marcus Mariota is a top 20 quarterback in the NFL?
Exactly.
Top 30? Come on, man. What kind of bullshit is that? Yeah, that's a crazy take. That's a crazy take. Seriously, somebody get that man's microphone and let's get him under, psychiatric care and give him a full evaluation. And if he's still saying shit like that, maybe go ahead and give him a lobotomy because that's some dumb shit right there.
Yeah, it's pretty alarming.
Yeah, that's a wild take. But now we got the Cowboys and the Eagles this Sunday. That ends up that's always on the calendar was going to be a big game, but especially with that loss last week, now Dallas starts to feel like, hey, maybe we could, win the division, and this game would obviously be a big part of being able to make that happen. What do you think about that game? And overall, who you think's going to win the division? Your man Dak is hot right now.
I think Philly's a good team, but I told you last week I thought they were going to lose to San Francisco. I think they're going to lose to Dallas this week. I think Dallas is on the upswing. I've always thought Dak was a good quarterback when things are working well around him. I like Dak. I think Dak is a very stable quarterback, big, strong, has a great arm. I think they're going to beat Philly this weekend. And I think there's a chance. It could be by double digits. That's my hot take.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm interested to see how the game plays out. I think that this game is interesting as far as the division, as far as the overall NFC. It's also interesting when we start talking about who ends up winning MVP. Right now, MVP odds, you have Purdy, Dak, Hurts, Mahomes, respectively. A lot of people really coming around to this guy Purdy being, a guy who's not just a distributor and a game manager, but is actually somebody who, kind of stirs that drink. What do you think about MVP? Like, if you had to pick an MVP in the NFL right now, who would you pick and why?
If things keep going, Nick, I don't think it's fair sometimes that it's like almost a solely quarterback award. I think, especially if this guy gets over 2,000 yards, you got to go Cheetah. I mean, if he gets over 2,000 yards, that's more yards than no one's ever done that. And I mean, the guy is literally unholdable. When you talk about separation, holy shit, if one of the Jets could ever get separation like this guy, last week he made a move and turned inside and realized that he had thrown it outside and turned outside and was able to catch the ball and keep running because he was 8 yards away from the defender. I mean, it's amazing. No one gets separation like that. This guy does. And I think if he continues and gets over 2,000 yards, has that many touchdowns, all that, and they win the division, which it's looking like, because I'm starting to go south on Buffalo. I think Tyreek deserves at least a good mention. He should be up there. I think he's that good. I really do.
Well, last time I kick it to you first because you stole my take.
Oh.
No, I listen, man. I'm with you, brother. I think that it is an offensive. I mean, it is a quarterback only award. It's that way on every level. Even with the Heisman, it seems like that this is something that we almost always give to the quarterback, and that's why, and that's reflected in the odds with all of the top guys being quarterbacks. I don't think it could be Purdy for this reason. When Trent Williams and Debo were out, they averaged 15 points a game. No, they averaged 17 points a game. Okay. And he looked very, very average. Right. So I think that and I don't think that he is quite the game manager make him out to be as well. I think that he is a more than competent and a much better than average and even good quarterback. But it helps when you can throw, a wide receiver screen to Debo and he's out. And when you have CMC just, breaking, little dump offs for, big gains down the field. And then you got Kittle, who's always open, and a dominant offensive line. I mean, Trent Williams locks down the entire side by himself. So I would not give him MVP. I would actually have Dak as the front runner as my MVP right this second.
Yeah.
If I was, that's who I would bet on. I would say
Mhm.
Dak. But when it comes to the most valuable player in the NFL this season, and this is a guy who I don't love some of the things that I know about him in his personal life, and the way he speaks to and deals with his woman. But on the field, Tyreek, the cheetah, he's a little demon, man. I mean, he when it comes to the overall records, I think I don't understand sometimes when we talk about some of the overall records, you got to throw them out, because if guys set records with an extra game, to me, I know that's a new record, but it's not as impressive to me as far as them breaking a record that has already been held. But right now he's got 93 catches. He's got almost 1,500 yards. He's already got 12 touchdowns. He's on pace for over 2,000, as you said. And I just think the way that he changes the game, he totally takes the top off the defense. And I know that there's a lot of guys that we've talked about who are burners who do that, but he actually is a good receiver in addition to that. He's not a Robbie Anderson type. You know what I mean? He can catch that little slant and take it and go. He's extremely strong, and he totally just changes how you have to play defense. I mean, that's what do they put up like 35 against the Jets, I think. Yeah, and the way our defense is able to hold down everybody, but even we couldn't slow that down. And I think a lot of what they do is revolved around him. A lot of the big running plays they have is because they run him in motion the opposite way. He just totally changes everything. And this guy Tua is pretty good, but there's times where Tua's underthrowing him, and he's still slowing up, catching the ball, and then running past the defender. I mean, yeah, in my opinion, I do think he is the most valuable player in the NFL right this second, but he won't win the award. I think the last time, what was it? It's 98. 1998, Randy Moss is the last person to receive a MVP vote.
Right, last receiver. But I heard somebody make a very good point earlier that says another reason why you want to hold Tyreek in such high regard is that if you said to me that Tyreek scored 2 touchdowns today or 3 touchdowns today, you and I would think, okay, well, that could have been on a slant. That could have been on an out. It could have been on a go. It could have been this. It could have been that. If you say the same thing about Randy Moss, we're thinking they're all goes.
Oh, Randy would take
maybe a deep post.
No, Randy would catch that slant and then cut outside and run up the sideline. That was in his bag.
Sometimes, but most of Randy's plays were on the go. There were nine patterns. 80% of his big plays were on the go pattern. And that's great. I mean, he was great. I mean, he's a great player, Hall of Famer. But the thing I like about Tyreek, I'm definitely a receiver purist. I like a guy that can run every pattern and make every catch. Randy Moss was not that receiver compared to Tyreek. He's not. He's just not. He doesn't run all the same
patterns. But you also can't throw Tyreek the jump ball like you can throw it to Randy. So I think
you know what, though? I think Tyreek, I've seen him even catch some jump balls. But yes, Randy is more of a jump ball guy. He's a bigger guy. He's a taller guy. I get that.
Bigger guy, taller guy, bigger hands, fantastic hops, all that stuff.
If you ask, I think 95 out of 100 GMs in their prime who they'd want as a receiver, Randy or Reek, they're taking Reek.
I think that. See, I totally disagree with that. I think that's a wild take. We're talking about Randy Moss. Randy Moss is the best. He's the best receiver I've seen, because I saw Rice, but I saw a lot. I was young for the really the prime of his career, and really saw a lot of more like the back end from it. Like I barely remember. I remember Rice on San Francisco with I remember him mostly with Steve Young. I don't even really remember that much of him with Jerry Rice. But obviously I know all the stats. I've seen a lot of the tape. I know how great and prolific he was. The greatest receiver I've ever seen in my lifetime is Randy Moss, and I don't think Tyreek is close. I would put Randy. I would take Randy Moss. I would take Calvin Johnson over Reek, a Megatron, and I even think like maybe a guy like Larry Fitzgerald I would throw up there. Just a bit of a compiler, but Tyreek is good, Dad, but come on, man. I mean, better than Randy Moss? I think that's
Yeah, I think
crazy.
when it's all said and done, he will be better than Randy Moss, numbers wise, all that. And I just think he's a more dynamic player, Nick. His extreme speed and shiftiness on any part of the field, I think is better. And by the way, Jerry Rice was definitely better than Randy Moss. But I know you didn't see him; you were too young. But Jerry Rice was a definitely superior player. Michael Irvin was a hell of a receiver too. But I just think this guy Tyreek is a really, really special talent, man. I think he's going to end up doing things that and he's with a quarterback that's very accurate. Usually very accurate too. I think he's gonna make a lot of noise down there in years to come.
I think Tyreek is that dude. Tyreek Hill, he's a baller, straight up and down. There's no other way to say it. He's a fantastic receiver. I don't think he's as good as Randy Moss, and I think that I'm interested to see. I'm gonna look it up. I want to look at because I can in my head see Randy catching a slant and running up the sideline. I think that Randy's got a little bit more, catching a short ball and then taking it to the house. I think he's got a little bit more of that in his game than you're giving him credit for. But yeah, Tyreek is. I mean, that dude, his acceleration, it's something special. I don't even know. He's not even that much faster than Randy Moss. I mean, Randy Moss was, dude. He's like a
Randy Moss. Randy Moss is it might be better straight line speed, but when you have to zigzag, all that sort of thing, I think Tyreek is a much faster guy when it comes to that.
But I don't see
I said
Tyreek
because
going
he's a
that
smaller
east.
man.
I don't see him going that much east and west. I see him catching, going east, west, northwest. I don't see him cutting back very much. He's usually like, boom, like it's just, I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to find some Randy Moss highlights and show them to you. But I still take him over Tyreek, and there's a couple other guys that I would too. But Tyreek's got he's got a whole lot more. His story is far from over. So he's got a lot more that he can do, and he's already got a ring. And like you said, he's down there with a great offensive mind, a very accurate quarterback. And so he's definitely got a chance to become a guy that we put in that. I don't think anybody's calling him a top 5 receiver of all time right now. I think everybody's calling Randy Moss a top 5 receiver of all
time. Yeah, maybe. I think he'll end up being better than Randy Moss, but that's just me.
We shall see. Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. We try to stay as current as possible, so episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule. You can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.